Hello, welcome to the Barton Racing YouTube channel. This week we're at Donington Park for the Masters Donington Historic Race Weekend. I'll be in the Toyota, the TVR and the BMW 1800 Teaser. Please enjoy the video and stay tuned for anything else that we do.
What happened during testing and what changes did you make, if any?
When we test them, we like to bed in brakes, bed in tyres and things like that. So with the TVR especially, we had 3 sets of tyres that we were bedding in, as well as a few different sets of brakes because we were trying a different brake pad compound just to see whether we could get more efficient braking and potentially brakes that lasted longer. So over the course of that Thursday where we were testing, we changed the discs, changed the pads, changed the tyres, making sure which ones were the best ones for the race, which ones were best for qualifying and things of that nature. Whereas with the Toyota, we've been playing with the setup a little bit, trying to figure out what happens during long corners, short corners, and how stable it is under braking and things like that. So we're having to make changes to the anti-roll bar setup, the damping and things like that, as well as doing race preparations with that as well, doing tyre bedding and things like that, because we were trying a new form of tyre for this weekend. We had to use Goodyear slick tyres instead of Pirellis, so it was really interesting to get the data from this set of tyres in comparison with the Pirellis.
What was it like racing the Supra against slightly older GT cars?
Well, you can tell there's definitely been a lot of upgrading of the new cars. You could get on track, and when you were going through a corner you could tell you had a lot more front end grip as well as a lot of grip under acceleration. The qualifying was in the wet, so when I was going for the throttle I didn't have to be as gentle. I could put my foot quite hard down because we have quite sophisticated traction control, so I was getting a little bit of a slide, but ultimately it was very controllable and I could definitely tune the car with the car's electronics as well as myself to get maximum grip out of acceleration, grip in the corners and grip in the braking. Whereas I could tell a lot of other people were very cautious with their cars because they weren't as sophisticated or didn't have as much grip for the wet, whereas this car had a lot more development, a lot more time to develop as well. So it was really interesting to see, especially during the races, the differences between my car and theirs.
What was it like racing 3 different cars over the weekend?
It's an interesting question. It's a question that I got asked a lot during the weekend. The 3 cars in question were very different: the BMW, the Toyota and the TVR. The TVR you have to have a lot of respect for. The car has so much power underneath you and not that much traction, so when you go full throttle you're going to lose traction at the rear end. And the chassis is so short that when you turn into the corner, yeah, you've got a lot of front end grip, but after the mid section of the corner you're going to have a few snaps of oversteer, as well as getting on power you've got to be very gentle with the car, very sympathetic and give it a lot of respect. Whereas the BMW, for instance, is a lot less power and you can really throw it into the corners more, stamp on the throttle, get it lit up and get it really singing and get it on song. It's very easy to play with it and hustle it round corners and things like that, whereas the Toyota, it's very fingertippy. You've got to really be gentle with your inputs, be very precise as well. The steering, you just need to do that and you're going through a 90-degree right hand corner. It's very, very sensitive. And with the inputs you've got massively great braking, especially compared to the BMW and the TVR. You can hit the brakes as hard as you want, you're going to stop for the next corner. It's so good being able to trust the car to pull up for the next corner. So jumping out of one car into the next, you have to really recalibrate yourself, recalibrate your inputs and think about, okay, I'm in this car now, let's change it and see how we can go fast in this kind of scenario.
How would you describe the weekend overall?
There were definitely highs and lows. I felt that the time in the Toyota made me infinitely more confident. The Toyota ran faultlessly all weekend. It was really interesting getting in a race setting, especially with these other kinds of cars. You've got a bit more straight line speed, a little bit less cornering ability. It's really interesting to go into the Toyota with a fresh mindset, develop the car and try it with new tyres and things like that. So I felt that went really well, and I felt my pace with the TVR and the BMW was an all-time high, getting fastest laps with both cars that I've had around Donington. However, in the races, I feel that we have little bits to improve on. The TVR, there was a mishap with the pit stop, but things happen and we have to bounce back from that, getting a 4th position. I would have hopefully been fighting for the podium without the penalty, however, ifs and buts. And the BMW, we lost 5th gear early on, so it was really hard to extract the maximum out of the car, but it was a very enjoyable race. However, I was a little bit more conservative because I wanted to make sure the BMW came back in one piece with minimal damage.
Here we are at the Masters race weekend at Donington Park. I'm driving 3 cars here this weekend, the first of which is this BMW 1800 Teaser, the old reliable. the car I've had the longest. I want to show you what it's like to drive each 3 different car, because they're very different in the terms of the way you drive and the way you apply yourself to each lap. So you see here, I'm coming down to Crane curves, I go into top gear, I'm flat out coming down this left hander, I'm sliding a little bit, braking, changing down to 3rd gear, turning in here, getting a little bit of slide onto the exit. I can only use the red and white rumble strip as my exit because the regulations mean that if I go past that, my lap time will be deleted. I'm taking a lot of speed up here, using the red and white to the right, going over to the left, braking, changing down, turning right here, trying to get on the power as early as I can, getting a little bit of a slide on. Now I'm thinking about my exit for the next corner because it's very imperative to get this one right, get the amount of traction, modulating my throttle enough to make sure I've got good enough traction, carry the momentum. If you lose any form of speed coming out of this final corner going onto this back straight, you lose a lot of speed all the way down the straight. Now I'm waiting to go over this next crest, which is here, braking, changing down to 2nd gear, turning in here, starting to build the throttle here, getting a bit of a slide on the way in, getting a slide on the way out, carry the speed as much as I can to the start finish line right here. Here I am in the Toyota. This is a modern car. It was made in 2024. As you may have seen through our previous posts, I can brake seriously late coming into turn 1. Coming in very smooth with the steering wheel, having a little bit of oversteer on the exit. Flat out going into 5th gear, coming down here. Coming for the right, going into 6th gear. Flat out in the BMW, not flat out in this. You have to breathe off the throttle, then come back on. Light brake, turn in for the right, carry the speed. I can use the green on the left hand side. I try not to because the grass comes up quick. I just try and carry as much momentum as I can. Going through here completely flat, just breathing off the throttle, braking here, turning in here, change down to 5th gear, then flat out. I don't want to change up here, I want to keep it and hold it in 5th, braking here, turning here. I keep it in a higher gear to make sure that I get the traction, get the speed and momentum out of this corner. Like I said previously, you need to prioritise your exit speed coming onto this straight. The car is so fingertippy, it does exactly as you want. You don't really slide it as much as you do with the BM and the TBR, but as you can see, you have to be very precise, carry the speed, and you can brake so much later in this thing. Here we have the TBR, a very different beast again. Much more horsepower, much less weight, however the brakes are the Achilles heel. You have to really bring back the braking point, whereas before I was braking after red marks, now I'm braking at the pit wall, giving me a lot of distance. I'm getting into the corner slightly on the way out. I'm having to short shift up here to make sure I have a lot of stability for the car, because the car will slide if I get on the throttle too much. Breathe off the throttle, back on to stabilise the rear of the car, braking early, changing down to 3rd, turning in, get back on throttle, have a little bit of a slide on the way out, trying to get as much traction as I can. Breathe off the throttle and change up and going into here. Flat out now, you breathe off the throttle as you're going to the left, brake here, turn right, then you start building the throttle back up. It's really easy to get too sideways through there. You don't want to do that because you're trying to carry as much speed and get this next corner right and just carry as much momentum and carry as much traction as you can. As I always say, you need to prioritise getting this exit right. Flat out down here, I've got to wait for just before the crest there, before I brake, just to give me enough time to slow down, then turn in, and I'm back on throttle trying to get the lap time done, and I'm getting very sideways there. This lap time was good enough to put me 3rd on the grid for the race. Here we have race 1 for the Toyota. In the Toyota we have a yellow race start procedure, which means that when we cross the line we accelerate to full racing speed, and then we pull in and follow line of stern to the people in front of you until you get through turn 1. It's to allow safe racing through turn 1 with these expensive fast racing cars. You can see the green flag being waved on my left hand side right now. So now it's full race speed, overtake, you can do what you like, the race has started. Now we're all on cold tyres, we're being a little bit tentative here, just making sure that we don't overdrive the car, we don't make mistakes that we don't normally make. But I can see in front of me the guys being very, very cautious, and I know that the Toyota is very good at waking the tyres up, and you can actually sort it out when you have a bit of a slide. I've seen he's gone a bit narrow into this next corner. I do the full racing line, I get on the inside of him, I'm trying to get the inside line for this next corner. I brake later than he does, I turn in, I get on throttle, I go a little bit lower gear just to give me a little bit more drive out of that final corner and get onto the straight. I move over a little bit just to make sure he's not tempted to go down my inside. I brake, move back over to open up the chicane, go back through, back on the throttle. You see I've got a little bit of a slide because the tyres are a bit cold, and that's the opening lap of the Toyota race. Here we have a very interesting chain of events. You can see me here following this BMW closely. I've been watching him for a few laps. I'm following him through this next set of corners. He's taking quite a narrow line into here. You can see here that he's gone very, very wide. Because of this, I get a better exit, and I'm trying to take it up his right hand side. I fake him and move over to the left to open up this next corner. I'm trying to get the run on him on the way out onto this straight. I'm following closely to get the toe, then I move out of his slipstream to try and go alongside him. I know I can outbrake him here. I outbrake him into this chicane. I move over a little bit to open up the corner, turn right, then flat out from there in third gear, a little bit lower than I usually do, just to try and give me the drive out of that corner. I'm now got the Maserati in front of me set on my sights. He doesn't have ABS, so I know that he could lock up. I see that he goes narrow into this corner trying to attack the Ferrari. I go deep, switch back, I'm in fourth gear, I'm flat out through here. I'm trying to get both of them at the same time. I'm not sure whether the Ferrari's seen me. I have a little hesitation. I've seen that he's left me a gap. I'm through. I've taken two cars in one corner. Again, we've got an interesting clip here. I told you before about prioritising your exit on this next corner going onto the back straight. Again, this car here has done the same thing as the BMW last time. It's got a little bit wide, compromised his exit speed. I've closed in on him here. I then try and take the appropriate line, get good traction on the way out of this corner. At this point I've lost fifth gear, so I'm having to rev it out in fourth gear. You can hear me the limiter, but you see by how much I gain an advantage on him by getting good traction out of that final corner. I try and outbrake him here. I've got the inside line, I take the chicane, and that's that move done. We have the start for the TVR race here. We're following 2x2 for this rolling start. When the lights go out, the race has started. We're going full racing speed. I've got cars on my left, however I see John Spears in front of me move over to the right, so I open up the corner a little bit by moving to the left. I've already got in my head that I'm going to try and get down the inside here. I'm in second gear, so I can fully get the power down and try and get the traction. I go down the inside of him. That's the move I made for second in the first lap. I'm now racing John again. He's coming down my inside here. He's got a very narrow line into this corner. I've made sure I've not compromised my line at all, getting on throttle as much as I can. You can see I've got a big slide. I've got good traction coming out of there, got good speed, and I've gotten past him going into this next corner. Crucially, to seal the deal, what I do is I take a narrow line in, I overslow the car because I know that he will come up my rear bumper. I purposely overslow the car so when he slows down I can then get full traction on the way out that corner to make sure he doesn't get behind me in the next stage of the lap. Here I get compromised by this MGB on my left hand side, which means that I don't have as much speed coming onto this back straight, which leaves me open to being attacked by John with the same move. He gets by me a little bit earlier in this corner now, so he's able to open up the corner that little bit more. I try and make the move again to try and get back past him, but it doesn't quite work out. He stays in front of me this time. So what I do is I move over to the left. I can see that he's going to try and take the inside line, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and take a deeper line into here to try and switch back on him. I turn right here, I get a little bit too much oversteer to try and make this move work, so I just have to carry the speed on the way out, trying to get as much traction, but it didn't work out. Here we are on a different lap. I'm following John again, racing him really close here because I want to get this position back, because it means I get put in the podium positions. I'm coming down through Craners here, trying to keep on him, trying to pressure him, trying to make him make a mistake. So I'm coming in here, turning right here. I see he's got a little bit too much of a slide. He starts to come over to the right. I move over to the right to avoid him, and that's how I get back past.
Okay, you good boys, Harry, didn't it? Oh, come on. Oh, Harry. Can I run my fingers through the top of here? Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, subscribe, share and comment down below. Also feel free to follow us on Instagram, Facebook and all our social media handles in order to keep up day to day with what we do and where we are next.